Hi, readers. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Katie.
And welcome to Not Another Heroine, the podcast where we break down the best and worst fictional heroines, those swashbuckling ladies who have to work a little harder than expected for their happy ending.
We'd love for you to come read with us in our book club on the Fable app, where you can chat with us about your favorite scenes, vote for your favorite characters, and even help pick our next read. Or you can follow us on Instagram to get a sneak peek at upcoming content.
Pick of the week?
Pick of the week!
Pick of the week.
That probably shattered some windows. I'm sorry.
That was my favorite one so far. Pick of the week.
Mm-hmm.
It is my pick of the week this time. And I read a book called A Girl Called Samson.
Oh.
It was by Amy Harmon. And I did not find this book on my own. I got that little Amazon email notification, like, here are the Prime books of the month. Like, you get to pick one for free. And I've had good luck with Amy Harmon before. So she does write fantasy romance. She wrote a book called The Bird and the Sword, which was excellent if you haven't read it.
Yeah.
Did you read it?
Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot about that one.
Okay, so she writes like across genres really well. She's got some historical fiction. She's got some like dedicated YA and then fantasy romance. And then this one is definitely historical fiction, romance / semi-biography. It was very intriguing. So it is set in the Revolutionary War time, and it's about this young woman who is kind of passed around from home to home because her family was very poor, and that's kind of what they did back then. If you had a lot of kids, like, you kind of pieced them out to, like, oh, go work with this farm family and they're gonna like pay you in food and shelter, and I don't have to pay for you now.
Like pre-foster system.
Yeah. And so this girl, I can't even remember the character's name. I read this book several weeks ago. I think it was at the beginning of April was when it first published. And so
dang, you're like first read.
Yeah, it's very new. So she's this kind of strapping farm girl, like very tomboyish, kind of likes to run out in the fields, and kind of doesn't really see herself as a girly girl. And so she goes and works and lives with this farm family who has, I want to say, 7 sons.
Oh my God.
So she's the only girl. And the wife, the mom, is like, oh my God, thank God, another girl in the house. Because she needed help with like the cooking and the washing and everything, because she's got a husband and 7 sons. And so I believe our heroine goes there around the age of 10 or 11. And so, again, super tomboy, and she's very interested in reading. Her mother taught her to read. That was kind of the unique aspect of her compared to all of her like peers, is that she's literate. But because this is the Revolutionary War time, like, she's only pretty much read the Bible. And she's read it over and over and over again.
Oh God.
So there's some, it's going to be weird if you haven't read any kind of Christian fiction before or anything that dabbles in religion, because I'd say the first third of the book has a lot of Bible stuff going on, and it's not Christian fiction. Like, that's the thing. It's just, this is historically accurate, which is pretty much the only books you had access to, if you had them at all, was the Bible. So she, the heroine, quotes the Bible a lot. She uses it as a problem solving kind of things, and like a moral compass. And it's super interesting because the way that Christianity is presented through this character's reading of the Bible is not a like preachy thing. It's just this is a young woman learning about the world through this one very specific lens.
That's kind of a cool concept.
Yeah. So if you can get, like, I know a lot of people get turned off by a lot of religion thrown in the book. If you can kind of look at it through that lens as like history and as a tool to show character development, it very much tapers off. as you progress throughout the book. So she grows up with these seven brothers, and the Revolutionary War and like all of the gossip about revolt and like fighting the monarchy is starting to take place in their towns and up and down the coast. And she wants to go off and fight because she's just as fast as the brothers. Yeah. So
hell yeah, brother.
Like, yeah. And so all of these brothers like teach her how to shoot, teach her how to fight, teach her how to like run and like carry heavy shit. And she's just as good as they are. She's like, well, why can't I go fight? Like, I'm clearly better than the littlest boy, and he's accepted. So it's kind of like a Mulan story a little bit.
Okay.
And the war takes off. All of the brothers go off to war. Like one by one, they all kind of leave. And she decides, you know what? I'm going to do it. So this is an excellent part of the book. So she dresses up as a boy, like takes her brother's clothing and like goes into town. Like I think she cuts her hair or she hides her hair somehow. And she goes to the local like conscription office and she successfully signs up. They don't look twice at her.
Oh my God.
Like, okay. Yeah, because she's very tomboyish. And
like, where did this like young lad come from? Like, you're supposed to be conscripted like 3 months ago.
It's a small town. She's like, did I really get away with this? I did. And so she takes her little like initial conscription money and she's like, I think men drink. I'm going to go to the local tavern and buy myself a beer. So
oh my God.
She does that. So she gets her uniform and her musket and her little like her beer money. And she goes to the tavern, sits at the bar, and she orders a drink. And people are like, okay, who's this lad?
What?
And so she starts having a beer, and then she's never had alcohol before.
Oh, no.
And it hits her like smack in the face. And then they recognize her like, oh
shit,
you're like Farmer John's girl. What the fuck are you doing? And so
no,
she gets hauled back to the farm. Like she has to pay back all the money, like completely failed.
Oh no. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I didn't see that coming. I'm like, oh, like everyone's read the story. A girl disguises herself as a boy, runs off to join the war.
Weirdly
like,
successful.
No one discovers her. Yeah. No, like fails utterly. As I think most people would. Like if you, like it's not that easy. No. And she makes a point, like the author does, like the people who figure it out are always women. Like they kind of look at her a little suspiciously because like, oh, that
they're like, you're like, too kind of nice to be a man. Like there's something wrong here.
Yeah. So that was fun. Oh, I could go on and on and on about this book. Like I read
I'm invested
almost a month ago. Like, but I won't try to turn this into like a full length pod episode. Long story short, she makes a second attempt. She goes like 3 towns down, like packs her little knapsack.
Smart.
Yeah. And so she successfully enlists. And so this is about the middle portion of the book is just her being like like an infantryman, just a ground troop. And it's awful. It's like you go through, and it's the Revolutionary War. So like not enough food, not enough clothing, like always like rucking from one place to another. And it's just miserable. But this character has this very like effervescent attitude. Like she embraces the suck.
She's just excited to be there.
Yeah, so she recognizes that like it's awful, but she's still grateful that she has this opportunity, like as a woman in this time frame, to go off and make something of herself.
Wow.
It's very cool. So she ends up at West Point, which military fort at that time, like that's where they station a bunch of people. And I nearly forgot this whole underlying subplot of this book. It's so important. Okay, so I said in the beginning she was very tomboyish, but also very well-read. And so she has this mentor figure when she's young, living on the farm, and it's the local preacher. And the preacher says, hey, like, let me connect you to my sister. She's like a lady living in Boston, I think. And she would love to she's around your age, maybe a little bit older, but she's married, she has kids. She would love to have somebody to write to. So our heroine grows up exchanging letters with the preacher's sister. And like she gets this older sister confidant kind of type, and she learns about the world. She learns about like growing up and being a woman through these letters with this older sister. And then I think it's either during the war or right before she leaves to join the war, she learns that her friend died.
What?
Like,
oh, you can't like lift me up and then tear me down.
Well, okay, so there is a purpose to this, and also in addition to talking to her friend through the letters, she also talks to her friend's husband, who is this very well-educated lawyer who also like writes short little notes and stuff to our heroine because like she's very introspective and wants to learn about the world and wants to educate herself.
Yeah.
So she gets into these debates over letters with both the sister and her husband. So anyway, we're back at West Point. She's suffered. She has this relationship with the sister who died and also the sister's husband. And the sister's husband is a general in the war.
Oh, shit.
And he enlisted very early on and like rose through the ranks, was very successful, very charismatic, very like well-respected. And he is also stationed at West Point.
I have read a book or two. I see.
I wonder what the role of this character
what is on the horizon. Continue.
So there's a little bit of subplot there. And so they happen to cross paths, and he finds this like soldier, this little foot soldier, very engaging because unlike a lot of her brethren, she's very educated and literate and is asking these thoughtful questions. Like when they're like, oh, she's on guard, and he's like touring the troops and everything. So
you look weirdly familiar, like the way you're talking. It's almost as if I've...
They've never met.
Oh.
Never met.
So he
Only
really
through
wouldn't
letters.
know. Unless he could like weirdly
Not at all.
detect syntax and...
Yeah. So that relationship's kind of like a friendship, and it's very much a friendship. And at this point, like his wife and her friend has been dead for several years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So a couple battles happen. There's some action. Like this book has it all. There's action. There's character growth. There's really interesting characters across the board. And our heroine, I keep saying our heroine because I can't remember. It's not Samson. Samson is her last name.
Oh, okay.
She like distinguishes herself. She's like a crack shot. She's like very courageous.
Hell yeah.
Like, yeah, she is a badass, and like not in a I'm a badass and very confident way, just in like a I know my skills and I want to do the right thing kind of way.
Love it.
So she makes a name for herself, and then the general requests for her to be his aide, like a valet.
Hoo, hoo, hoo. The plot thickens.
So, like, And so there's some fun development there as she learns to be like a gentleman's valet, which like freaks her the fuck out initially. She's like, I don't know how to dress a gentleman.
I am not even a gentleman.
Like I have to bound my chest every day. Like, and that's another cool thing this author does is she actually explains how challenging it would be to be a woman disguised as a man surrounded by men. Ugh. Like having to like hold, like not go to the bathroom in front of people and hold it. Like, and this chick does that. And
oh my God. Not pleasant. I can't even imagine. Like sports bras are uncomfortable enough. And then you're going to like tell me I got to like bound my titties. Like no fucking way. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Ugh. So, yeah. So there's a couple other battles, a couple of other scenes that eventually, she's a girl disguised as a man, and this is what I would categorize as like a historical with like enough romance to tide you over. So you can kind of put the pieces together for what happens. I won't spoil the rest of it, but it is so worth getting it. Like the pacing is great. It's chef's kiss. Like fantastic.
Oh my gosh. So what are 3 books that if you liked this one, you would also like, or if you liked these 3 books, you should read this one? That probably didn't make any sense, but you know what I mean.
At this point in our pick of the week episodes, I can kind of see where you're going. So I'm going to date myself on this. I don't think you've heard of any of these books I'm about to list off, but they're the only ones that are like similar, like definitely history with a touch of romance. So the first is, which is like on my top 10 list of books. I will keep buying if I lose a copy, and we'll give a copy of this book to everyone.
Whoa.
It's called Mara, Daughter of the Nile. And that is ancient Egypt.
I'm listening. I'm intrigued.
Super good. Like, oh my God. So this book was required reading for me in like junior high, I want to say. And it's the only book I actually enjoyed on the required reading list. But it's a phenomenal book. Spies, adventure, ancient Egypt, romance. It's amazing. So
intrigued.
Yeah, before you even read A Girl Called Samson, read Mara, Daughter of the Nile. So that's one. A second is The Witch of Blackbird Pond, which is also like pre-Revolutionary War America. Think, what are those? The first settlers, pilgrims.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Pilgrim Times and witch trials.
Also intriguing.
And yep. And then there's one more. I think it's called Washington Avalanche, like 1910. And this was a line of books published in the early aughts that were YA romance with a little bit of history. So
love it.
Yeah. So this one takes place in it's based on the Washington Avalanche that took out the railway that went across the Cascades. And yeah, there's a romance subplot. Like,
love it
there too.
Already sold.
Yeah. So
this book kind of reminds me of what is that one book by Tamora Pierce? Lionhearted, or what is it?
Oh, Alana.
Yeah. It kind of gives me the same vibes of like a girl who's like, no, fuck this. I'm not going to be a girl. I'm going to go fight some bros, and then just lives an adventure.
That's another good, like, if you liked Alana, you'd like this one.
I can see that. I feel like Alana's like the more fantasy romance versus like historical romance.
And Alana's a little bit younger.
Oh, okay.
Tamora Pierce is really good at writing series that you kind of grow up with the characters. Like,
I could see that.
This one you could probably read at any age. I don't know if it's categorized as like YA or New A or adult, because it's just very broad.
Okay, cool. Well, from Jordan's shelf to yours.
We'll see you on the next page.
Hi, readers. If you'd like to help us pick our next book, send us a message on Instagram.
Or if you'd like to just listen, we post new episodes every Monday on Spotify, Amazon, or Apple Music. Thanks for listening.